Hey, thanks for coming by Tori Magoo 44. It is June 2nd, right?
Right.
Yeah. And I'm lucky enough to have Mark Fisher here. He's
Right here. Hi, how you doing?
he's got an excellent story. So tell us, first of all, how are you here in LA? What's going
I'm
on?
here visiting. It's I'm happy to be here at the same time that Mike and Marty, Mike Rinder and Marty Rathman are in town, and just here visiting for old friends and other things. We'll see what happens.
Good. So you have a pretty amazing story. You were in for the Sea Org for how many years?
13 years. I was in the Sea Org 13 years, right out of high school, and then I was in for 13 years, and then I finally left in September 1990. So I've been out for almost 21 years now.
Good job. Good job. And
Mhm.
you were actually, DM was your roommate, right?
When I first joined the Sea Org, yeah, he was 16 years old. He just dropped out of high school, and he'd been there for about 30 days before I did. I just graduated high school, so I was a high school graduate, and he was a dropout. And we were roommates, and we were in the Commodore's Messenger org at the time, and I lasted all of about 30 days before I got kicked out of there because I just didn't adjust to it very well. But eventually, I worked my way back in, and before too long, after several years, worked my way up, and I was the last 6.5 years I was there. I was DM's right hand man at the Gold Base and handling things with the movies and the videos and the audio and all that sort of thing, and directly for him.
That's intense. And how was he back then? Was he still flipping? Was he flipping out back then, or
Well, I mean, back when he was 16.
well, when you went back? Yeah.
When he was 16, he was just as much of a jerk as he was later on. Except
Really?
didn't have any power back then,
Right.
but he got power later on, of course, and then he just used his power to throw his weight around and stuff. But I worked for him. I was one of the people who could basically stand up to him. You know what I mean? When things weren't getting done, I could take care of things for him, and that's why I lasted as long as I did. Because if something wasn't getting done, he'd turn it to me to take care of it, and I usually would end up getting it done without having to kill anybody or yell at anybody or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I used to get in trouble because I didn't yell at people, and he and his wife, they preferred that I would do that, but that's not the way that I handle things. I basically, if he was upset at something, I would turn around and I would go solve the situation, the problem, and then things would get done that way.
Good
I
job.
also was responsible too for his personal staff. I hired all the personal staff, took care of his laundry, office supplies, his administrators, both in LA and in at the int base and stuff. So we were responsible for all of his domestic stuff as well as overseeing the different stuff at the gold base.
Now, wouldn't you say he's not really that competent of a person?
Well, I mean, he's competent in his ways. I mean, he leads by fear,
That's what I
and
mean.
what he does is, he forces people to do things, against the cost of death, basically. So, you'd be amazed at what people will do. But his standards are so ridiculous. I mean, he's so behind the times that DVDs, CDs came out way before. And then they were making everybody do lectures on cassettes. Why? Because cassette quality was so much better. His standards are so much higher. So therefore we have to put them out on TDK tape because it's so much better than CDs. Yet when, eventually nobody buys cassettes anymore. It's like an antique horse. So then they go to switch over to DVDs or CDs, and then they make everybody buy everything on CDs. So then you realize, oh gosh, you could sell the stuff over and over and over again. Same thing happened with the films. They spend millions of dollars on a film processing lab for the movies, and yet everything's done digitally now. It's all done on digital cameras and digital editing and digital this, digital that, wasting millions of dollars. You know what I mean? Same thing with printing. Now we were talking about this yesterday. They spend all this money on printing and printing presses and all that, where with one click of a mouse you can send emails to thousands of people, and it
True.
costs nothing.
Yes.
Yet, meanwhile, you've got all these people printing out paper that they're just going to throw in the trash anyway. So it's just typical of he's behind the times. He likes to make out that he's ahead of the times and knows what's going on, but he's really behind the times because he holds on to things like, oh, it'll be lesser quality. We can't do that.
Wants to be the king of the road, right?
Right.
Even though isn't it ironic how the whole world kind of can see them? That's why I call it the Truman Show. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
you're so blindsided when you're inside of it. You can't see the wall.
Right. Well, and the only reality you have is what is within those gates and walls. And that people don't know what's going on. Staff members don't know what's going on in the real world. They don't read the news. They don't see what's going on. That was actually one of the things that I did. I actually read a newspaper every day, and I did that my entire time I was in the Sea Org, so I was actually aware of what was going on in the world.
Wow.
But it's just when, he started, I was like one of the first people to realize, not, I wasn't the only one, but I was one of the first to realize that he was off the rails, and that basically, after LRH died, that there was no hope. And,
Really?
Yeah, and the only hope was really to leave or lose your sanity. And I said, I'm out of here. It doesn't make any sense. And that's when he physically attacked me, which I, documented in the St. Petersburg Times and all that. I was one of the first people. There were others that, he physically attacked, but I mean, actually, he beat me up and that type of thing. And I just went, you know what?
Himself personally?
Yeah. In the garage at the Gold Base, and that's all documented and everything. And it's been confirmed by other people who were there that witnessed it. But, I just went, that's not Scientology, and that's not why I got involved. I'm out of here.
Right.
And it took me 3 times to get away because my wife was still in, and I wanted to get her to come with me, but they basically turned her against me after 6 years of marriage. And after the 3rd time coming back, I just went, that's it, I'm done.
Yay,
so I left for good.
Good job, good job.
Yeah, that was September 1990. So
Fantastic.
But then, of course, that doesn't, that didn't keep him happy because, a bunch of us all then ended up in Las Vegas, trying to go into business together to do something to make our lives start over again. And of course, then he's, decided to send in private investigators to become our friends and our employees and spy on us for no reason. We weren't doing anything.
Right.
But because he's got such a big ego, and we all, said that the reason we left was because of him, and then that meant, he wanted to know what everything that we were doing. So he was basically spying on me all the way up until about 2 years ago, and that's also documented in that Truth Rundown series if you want to read about that, where one of my best friends for the last 12 years, turned out to be a Scientology spy I basically paid for. So, I have no idea why I'm doing it, but, he still does, and, I just think, that you're seeing real change happen right now, particularly if you look at what's happening in Australia, the arrest that just happened, and then also, there's the Commission on Charities. I mean, there's some real change happening fast down there. So, and then we'll see what happens, with the investigations and stuff that are happening here in the United States. So,
I know.
I still have friends that are in there, and I still have family that are in there that are disconnected from me and others, and I'd like to see them find their way out. To be honest with you, anybody that's still in Scientology, I mean, if you're really interested in Scientology, come out here. The independent field is much, much better. You can actually get standard tech out here as opposed to DM's version of tech.
Well, for sure, it's the people out are having a very good time. For people who do want help, like you said, with Scientology tech, there's most of the top auditors are out. I've met with a bunch of them.
Yeah, all the class 12s, all the LRH chain class 12, they're all gone.
They're all gone.
They're not there anymore. FEBCs, OECs, oh yeah, they're all gone.
Yeah, they're all gone.
Yeah.
So you meet with them out here and go.
Funny what's the percentage of that?
Yeah. And that's another thing that's just like, no way, per their own technology. It's supposed to be 2%, but it's really like, what, 80%?
Well, it's really, the 2% is running the show inside and is blowing off everybody that's of good nature and goodwill.
Yeah, so if you're in and you're lurking and you hear us, come on out. Because you can call me, I'll come get you. I will. It's like, I had somebody yesterday, a couple days ago, called me, and he's out. He's free. He was in the Sea Org, and good job, man. And it's a lot easier to leave. I always say, when I left, and I think it's still true, you kind of feel like you're leaping off a mountain about 1,000 feet up, right?
Right.
It feels so huge. It's really nothing more than walking across the street.
Right.
With a line in it. Even if you're in the Sea Org, even if you're in the top Sea Org, right?
Right.
How'd you get out?
I actually was lucky. I had resources. I had a car and I had credit cards. Most people didn't have any money.
Right.
So I was actually able to get out and leave, you know what I mean? But most people are not that lucky. They don't have any money. They don't have any way out. And of course, when I left, they didn't have the razor wire on the fence yet. They didn't have all the video cameras. They didn't have all the motion detectors in place yet. Right. So it was a little bit easier to leave.
Right.
But, it really just takes the decision to just, do you want to take control of your life? Come on out. The water's fine.
And if you're out and you're not speaking out, come do it. Because the more people that speak out, the more people are going to come out. The more people that come out, the more people are going to speak out. The more knowledge that's out here, the faster it goes down. That's what I look at. Don't you think?
Right.
All right, good. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to everybody. And have a good, we're almost up to the weekend, right?
Peace, everybody.
Peace. All right, ciao.